Streaming live around the world, this is Paper Cuts with Brad and Jay.
I'm the one you love. I'm Jay. Thanks so much for stopping by. Over there's Brad. It's his show.
It's his show. That's why I'm the host, and we just love Jay.
Now you know it's all natural. I mean, nothing's rehearsed, right?
No, absolutely nothing is rehearsed on this show.
God, you just suck the life out of me. It feels like
you've got a lot grayer since we started this.
I have. I know. I have. Tonight we get all snazzied up with Tiffany Michelle Brown. Damn, we look good.
We are live.
Hold on, Jay.
I think I missed my own memo.
Hold on, Jay. What are you wearing over here?
Off the top. It's a Bob Dylan shirt. Come on. Hey.
That's not getting snazzied up for
I was able to work from home today. So, yeah, I had shorts on and a rock shirt. And
you have absolutely no excuse.
I missed my own memo about this. Yes. Look, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. Welcome to our show, the little shindig we like to call Paper Cuts. Brad's over there. I'm Jay. Glad you're able to join us this evening. Our guest is no stranger to the show. Last time she was here was in support of an anthology that she was part of. And Brad, did you know that she actually sang a song for my YouTube channel?
I did know that.
A couple of Christmases ago.
World famous Christmas Carol.
Yeah. So tonight we are celebrating the release of her short story collection with poems mixed through. Everyone hold it up.
Yeah. How lovely to be a woman. They do look good.
Everyone give it up for Tiffany Michelle Brown. How are you this evening? How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm
Happy
so
Friday
excited
night
to be here.
Thanks for taking a break from your partying with this to join us. Right?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Like, as soon as I knew the release date for this, I was like, I know who I'm reaching out to because I had so much fun on the show last time. I was just gotta do it.
Right. This is your first official full book, right? I mean, you
debut.
have stories everywhere, but this is your first.
Yes. Debut short story collection.
Yeah, I think that deserves a toast. What do you guys say?
You into a toast? Look at Jay. Now he's getting snazzy.
Brand new bottle. It's not even open yet.
Oh my gosh.
What are you guys drinking?
I love it.
Don't mess it up, Jay. I'm drinking a what's it called? Mint julep with Buffalo Trace because the Derby's tomorrow. Represent Kentucky. Right.
Fancy. I've got myself an Aperol Spritz, which is a little bit of a different drink for me. I'm usually a whiskey girl, but I popped open some champagne earlier this week to celebrate. So, yeah.
I just get out the bottle. Would that be bad if I just start drinking out the bottle?
Just chug it. Jay's gonna be like,
I would actually be offended if you do not. I will be offended if you do not at some point here.
Wait,
that is the right level of celebration.
Right, we gotta do the whole.
You can't offend the guest. Yeah, you gotta swirl it around.
Smells like sweet oak and vanilla.
You got the tasting notes and everything. I dig it.
Wait, let's toast. It's toasting the book, the release of the book.
Cheers.
I love it.
So the book came out on
nice
Tuesday.
Balance of
Monday.
On Monday.
May 1st.
Jay, you don't have any idea what you're talking. Look at you. Woo, it's a little hot there, Jay.
Nice little balance of vanilla and I don't know. I was watching videos today.
Fire in your chest, probably.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little burn all the way down.
It's good stuff right there. All right, let's get into the book. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So it came out on Monday. What's the reception been like so far this week?
It's been really, really amazing. Like I've actually been extremely overwhelmed just seeing like this book out in the wild and hearing from people who are reading it and connecting with the stories. Like everyone has just been so incredibly kind, which has been really fantastic because it took me 10 years to finally work up the nerve and be like, damn it, it's time. Like I should really have a book by now. Like the only thing that was in my way was myself. So it was really nice. It's been so nice to just.
Is that surprising?
The reception's been fantastic.
Right, because people know you though. You've released several short stories for anthologies and collections and stuff, so people knew you could write. So you shouldn't be too surprised that people are like, "Hey, this is great." come on, have some vanity for a few seconds. Bring it in.
Okay, you know what? I'm just kidding. No, it's nice because it's definitely like a leap of faith where it's just kind of like, oh, it's all my work, right? Like it's different to have like a story in an anthology, and people go, oh, well, that was really great. And then you put everything together, and, you know, I took the risk of putting poetry in this collection, and people have been like losing their minds over the poetry, which has been so cool. So it's just, it's really nice. And part of this was really just me kind of like giving myself a kick in the ass too, and being like, damn it, yeah, you're a good writer. Like, you should actually get this out.
That's right.
So, you know, like there's two sides of that for sure.
What made you think go with the route of mixing poetry? Because I had this idea a while ago too. I just haven't done anything about it, like mixing stories and poetry together, maybe some ramblings and some, you know, random thoughts. But like, what made you decide to mix your poetry with your stories and go that route?
You know, there were a couple of things. One of the poems that's in here was originally part of an anthology, Women in Horror, last year, Under Her Skin.
Right.
And when I was putting together the anthology, I was like, oh, this is the anthology, my collection, not an anthology, my collection. I was just like, oh, well, that poem would be a really good fit. Like, do I have anything else? And there was one that I had started, and it was one of those things where thematically they all just kind of lined up. And I went, you know what? Yeah, I want to do that. And people always talk about like writing the type of thing you want to read. And I, for one, really love like both anthologies and collections where people experiment with stuff where it's not like all short stories of the same length. Maybe you get like microfiction, maybe you get poetry, you get like, I really like kind of the variation of that in a reading experience.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to follow that advice and like just put together the stuff that feels right. And that's just what wound up happening. So, yeah.
It really breaks up the pace a little bit. It changes the pace, and it keeps you breaks up the monotony of story after story after story. It gets you changing things around a little bit, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Even the length of the stories, like there's some longer ones, like 10, 15 pages, and you had like a couple 2 or 3 page ones, which I liked as well, breaking it up some.
Yeah. And Red in the comments here is saying it flows beautifully thematically. I agree, because it had a nice flow to it. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I think anyone who's released a collection has probably been the person who's kind of like, okay, well, how do you put these together? Like, what's the flow like? What's the reading experience like? So that means a lot.
Was that troubling trying to figure out which order to go through, or what? Okay.
Yeah, totally. Because I went through a couple of different iterations of like the table of contents of putting things together and then going, oh, wait, thematically, like these things are together, or are these two poems too close to each other? But then like tonally, you know, perspective, point of view, like all of those things. It's so funny. Like if you obsess over it too much, like you would never get it done.
Drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you drive yourself nuts. But you know, like there's definitely some thought that was put into at least some of it. And then I got to a point where I was like, okay, I can't mess with this anymore. Like that's just it. Like it has to just be done.
Overthinking it, and you're like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. Exactly.
So were you trying to hit a like certain word count for the whole collection, or you just wanted to get a certain amount of stories for it, or how did you go about that process?
You know,
there's 15 in here, right? 15 stories and poems.
Yeah, there's 15 stories and poems. So, you know, I didn't think about the word count or have like a goal or anything like that. I really kind of went like, this collection is a lot of vibes, honestly. And that's what kind of drove everything forward from the beginning till actual publication. And so it was really more of are these the right stories? Are these the right poems for this collection? And if they didn't fit, then I had zero issue with being like, I'm going to nix this, even if it means that it's 2,000 or 3,000 words shorter. Like I'll figure something out. And like, I wanted it to be, you know, at least something. I think my ultimate goal was just, can I print on the spine? That's part of it. I will say, like, the printing on the spine was important, so I wanted to make sure that I hit that threshold, whatever it was.
It's got to look good on the bookshelf.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm like, I want people to be able to pick it out like on a bookshelf. But outside of that, I was just kind of like, okay, well, which stories really make sense in this? Which ones don't? Like, is the flow right? You know, so that was really kind of the guiding principle, way less like a kind of word count. And I'm super happy with how it turned out. It was one of those things where I was like, well, let's just put this in and see like what the page count might be. And it came out to right around 150. And I was like, that feels really good.
It does. Yeah.
You know,
it's not overly long. It's not too short. It's like, you hit that perfect medium.
Yeah.
It's like some of us have short attention spans, and it comes in handy when it's short like that. So,
you know what? I'm a big fan of the shorter book club. Like, I'm much more of a fan of reading something that like is like really impactful, but like 150 to 250 pages.
The hour and a half horror movie.
Ooh, yes. 100%. You give me 3 hours and I'm gonna fall asleep. Like, no matter what your movie is, like it's gonna happen.
Like a 2 hour plus horror movie. I'm like, why is it so long? You know, you're just dragging it out.
Exactly.
You hear me, Scream 6? You hear me?
Is that 2 hours? I haven't
it's
seen
over 2 hours. You hear me, Terrifier 2?
Uh-oh.
Jay's throwing shots. Goodness, Jay.
I was about to say shots were fired.
I was just messaging the director of Scream 6.
I was going to say.
Now they're just playing.
You're like, I have some words for you.
So now that it's out in the world and people are reading it, is there any that you would have, oh man, I wish I would have put this one in there instead, or you content with what's in here?
No, I'm super happy with how everything came together. Like, there were a couple of stories that I think I had ideas for that I was going to write specifically for this collection, but for whatever reason, the creative process just kind of kept me from finishing those in time for me to really dig in and like get this project going. And I was like, those are just not, they're not the stories for this collection. And I fully intend to publish more. So like, they'll show up in other stuff. Like they will always be there. So I'm super, super happy. And it's been great because, I think one of my favorite things this week has been people telling me their favorite stories or poems, and they're all different. That's cool. I think that is like the coolest and most validating thing, because I'm just like, oh, they're different stories that are hitting different people, and it's great.
Because that lends to the strength of the whole collection, that it's not, oh, everyone's saying this one's the best. There's multiple ones that are the best, so it's a strong collection. That's just hint at that. Mine was hold on. I put it on Twitter earlier. The Pieces one. What's it?
My Love in Pieces.
My Love in Pieces. And again, it was tough, so that might not be my favorite one tomorrow, but that was my favorite one right this second. I like that.
That was a nice twist that kind of.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that one to go the way it did.
Yay! I love it. That's actually
that just shows how effective it was, because he probably had the same reaction I did. It was like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, wasn't expecting that. Was that your favorite too, Jay?
It's probably up there. Yeah.
I like I don't know, I'm horrible with remembering the name. The Other Teeth one also was a really good one. I like the other. I like the two teeth stories.
The one where the girl keeps changing.
Oh yeah, that one was cool. Yeah, it's like the fairy tale one.
Yeah, it seemed like
Yep, the girl who lost herself.
Yeah, that one was cool. And we'll just name all of them. I like the.
We'll just go ahead and break down each one.
I'm here for it. Go for it.
The one that she had like the bad skin and stuff, and it got like the makeup mask on. That one was cool too. Yes, that one was cool too.
That's my gross out story in the collection.
Yeah, you had some body horror in some of those. I know you like body horror. Throw some of that in.
Very much so. Yeah, it's totally my jam.
So, aside from being a female, like, where did the whole concept of the theme from this come from?
I mean, I don't think that I can really like divorce my collection from just kind of current events and things that are happening, with discussions of womanhood and being a woman. And, sometimes it's just straight up violence. Sometimes it's just things that are in the news. Like, there's just so much. But I will say that, especially with this collection, when I sat down and said, okay, well, I want to create something, I started picking the stories that I really loved and that I knew I wanted to include in a collection. And that was just a natural theme that came out. And I was like, okay, well, clearly I have some things to say here. Yes. Clearly there are some stories that I want to share. And once I kind of decided on that, ideas for other stories just kind of came forth. And, I hate to say the whole, reality or art imitating life, right? But there's definitely some of that where, you know, the past few months when I was filling out the rest of this collection, there's just been so much where it's like, okay, yeah, I can write something about that. So it kind of came organically, but then there's been a whole lot of inspiration just in kind of like daily life. Like I will say this collection's probably is pretty personal.
Okay.
So yeah.
So you didn't really necessarily start out with that theme in mind. That just was a happy accident along the way.
Yeah, totally. I just started putting stories together and was like, oh, well, there's a theme. Like, okay, clearly, like there's something here with, you know, kind of the horrors of everyday womanhood and just those experiences. And then I took a look at some of the stories that I was kind of like, oh, I know I want to write these. And they just fit within that theme. So I was like, okay, well, let's just lean into it. Like, let's make that the collection. So,
well, not just this collection, but just sort of your writing in general. Do you feel like you sort of write in sort of that same theme area, the womanhood and everything, or for the most part?
I definitely do. I mean, not exclusively. There are definitely some stories that, you know, I'm reserving, and I'm already starting to think about like another collection. That are very, very different than this theme, and really kind of leaning into some other areas. Like I'm very much embracing a lot of very weird writing lately, like some stuff where I'm just kind of like, oh, that's totally implausible. I'm gonna write it. Like, let's go.
I love the weirdness. I'm a fan of that. So
it's been so fun to like give myself the freedom to do that. So like I feel like this collection is very like there's definitely some grounding in reality, but I think the next thing that I'm going to publish is probably going to be really out there. I mean, I think that there's always going to be some themes of like feminist horror and women's experiences, simply because, again, like art imitating life. But yeah, I mean, that's always going to be a through line in my work, I think. But I'm excited to write outside of that a little bit too, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So I like you on your. Go ahead, Jay.
I was just going to say a couple of these have been printed before in other projects. So when you're putting it together and came up with this theme, was that any did that help you pick out the theme when you realized, okay, some of these that have been published before in the past kind of go together? Did that make it any easier for you to add the new ones to it to stay with that theme?
Yeah. No, it totally did, because I mean, I knew that I didn't want everything to be new. I wanted to reach into kind of like, you know, my bag of tricks as it is, and include some of those. So it was just that process of picking out the ones that I really loved, and was just kind of like, oh yeah, like there's totally like they just fit.
Yeah.
So
when
yeah,
you know, you know, it doesn't have that feel to it.
100%. Again, all vibes, all gut. Like that's very much what this collection is.
I liked on your Instagram live you did on Monday, you were talking about just because it's feminist horror doesn't necessarily mean that it's anti-man or whatever. And I like that you said that, because some people are weirdly offended. Oh, it's feminist, that means they hate men, which isn't the case at all. And I like that you said that, because people are really weird about it like that sometimes.
Yeah. You know, and I will say that was one fear that I had with releasing this collection. I mean, I gave it a thought and then just went, well, whatever. Like,
yeah,
if you're going to be angry about my work, then you're going to be angry about my work. I don't care. But feminist horror does not mean man-hating horror at all. And a lot of this, like, even though there are individual characters who are men in these stories, they are generally symbolizing much larger power structures. So we're talking about, you know, patriarchy, we're talking about toxic masculinity, we're talking about some of like the really like the bad side of stuff, where if you just take a step back and you go, yeah, like some of that shit is pretty messed up. You know, those are the things that I'm commenting on. It's not men in general, right? Like it doesn't have to do with that. And unfortunately, you know, a lot of women or a lot of people who read this collection may find their own experiences in some of these. And you know, some of this is very much rooted in experiences that I've had or that friends have had. And, you know, obviously I'm hyperbolizing and like taking a lot of creative liberties with some things. But, you know, there is some reality in these pages, and, you know, getting that out is just helpful.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that this is a man-hating collection. Like, I really don't want anyone to walk away with that at all.
No.
And I'm happy that that hasn't been like the reception either. And I've also been super, super happy whenever I started saying that, you know, ARCs were available and that sort of thing. I think I may have actually sent more copies of this collection to men than women as like ARC readers, simply because they were asking. And I was just like, I freaking love this. Yes, absolutely. Please, like,
that would be an interesting,
I love it.
Like a research project, an interesting research project.
The breakdown of it.
Reach out to the men you send it to and ask them why they wanted to read it.
Yeah, it was just super cool. But it warmed my heart, because I was just like, that was something that I was really kind of self-conscious and a little bit worried about. And I'm just like, no, y'all are coming out and supporting your girl, and I really appreciate it. You know, and not taking things personally. Like, these stories are not about you. Like, I promise.
Yeah, right.
So, you know, like, that's been super, super cool, and gives
maybe they were
a lot of
educated
hope
men who knew it was not about them personally.
You know what?
Wait.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Yes.
So I read Steve Stred's review, and like him, like, he really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and he was, you know, he didn't necessarily connect with all the stories because, you know, he's a man and it's a female perspective. I was the same way. I enjoyed them all, but I couldn't put myself in the woman's shoes. But I still appreciated and enjoyed all the stories, and I didn't feel attacked as a man whatsoever throughout any of the stories.
Good.
So if that was a worry you had, I definitely didn't feel that way at all. As a man, passing grades in my book, and breathe. And even if you did offend somebody, who cares if you offend them? Because it's your stuff, it's your stories that you want to put out. If they don't like it, that's their problem.
Exactly. And honestly, like, a little tongue in cheek, I was kind of like, you know what? My goal with this collection is to offend
somebody.
At least someone.
I would be offended if I didn't offend somebody, you know?
That's what Lansdale says, that, right? Joe Lansdale. If you're not offending somebody, you're not trying, or something.
Right.
Like that's what he says.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not offended. So
yeah.
Yes. I'm waiting for the day when I get like the 1-star review by someone who's just mad, and I'll just be like, I've made it.
When you print it out,
put it on
it'll
your
just
wall.
be like, whatever, like, dude, just
when you do get it, I will point it out for you, just so you know when you do get it.
Yeah, because Jay's the negative Nancy. He likes to.
Yeah.
Our last episode, we were like 4 minutes into it. He was like, "Oh, your negative review you got already." It's like, Jay, we're like 5 minutes into the show, and you're already negative. Quit that.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
But how did you? Speaking of the collection, since we're talking about, how was this a pre-made Don Noble cover, or did he make this specifically for you? Because I love Don Noble's great anyway, but I really like the woman with all the teeth and the scales and all the stuff she's got going on. It's a super cool cover.
I love it so much.
There she is.
She's gorgeous. Yeah, this was a pre-made that he, you know, released maybe. Gosh, was this like a year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago? It was something like that, where I first had like the kernel of an idea of like, this was going to be the collection, and it just popped up on Twitter, and I was like, that's her. I was like, that is my girl. Because I knew that there was going to be body horror. I knew that I wanted like a really gnarly cover like this. That was really kind of like both feminine and monstrous, because I think that really helps to support the collection. You know, and I love it so much. But yeah, it was a pre-made, and I was like, I want that. I was like, I have no idea when I'm going to release this thing. But that's my cover. So
you had it for a while.
I had it for a long time. Like, it was so funny, because whenever I got to the point where I was like, oh, I should probably reach out, I was like, he's not even going to remember that I like bought this, and like, I hope he's available. Like, because it was such a long period of time. But I will say, like, Don is great. Like, he is incredible, and he was such a joy to work with. He did a phenomenal job because it was just, you know, this front image. But like, I love the text treatment. For those of you who've seen it in person, like, you know, the level of detail in the text treatment, like it's scaly. I love it. And it has a very like almost like 70s like horror vibe to me, which I really love.
Yeah. Well, kind of hippie-ish font. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. And then like the back is just like,
the wraparound looks good.
Oh, it's so pretty. But I love it. But I mean, so a funny story about this initial cover art was I shared it, you know, without the text treatment, without anything like the fully finished cover, with some friends who are definitely not horror readers early on. And the response was, "Oh, that's something." And I was God. I was like, cool. I think that's actually the right cover. Like if that's your reaction.
Freaking out the non-horror people.
yeah. I was like, okay, cool. Like that's gonna hit, I think.
They're like, you're actually gonna put your name on there, Tiffany? What's wrong with you?
I sure am. But I'm so incredibly happy with how it turned out. And like I loved Don Noble's work for a really long time. I knew that I wanted to work with him at some point, and then this design just happened to pop up, and I was like, well, okay, you're going to be the artist for my first one, because
I'm glad it's kind of the matte black too, because it blends in and it makes it a little bit darker. I think if it was shiny, I'd be like, hey, happy, you know, but
yeah, I'm a huge fan of the matte cover for sure. Like she almost looks like she's emerging from the darkness.
Right.
I think it's really cool. I'm a huge fan of like the matte finish for sure, especially for horror, because so many things tend to be dark. So you get like those weird reflections that can happen. And yeah, I think the matte's just really lovely.
In his art, he's like, you know, that Don Noble did that cover, like same with like Keelan Patrick Burke or Justin Coons, like you can tell those are those guys' covers. Or I'm not gonna remember her name, Lynn Hansen. I love her stuff too.
Oh, she's another one who
there's like 4 or 5 that you just could tell.
NW Reader,
right away.
Christina, Trueborn Design. She's been doing great covers.
Those I know. Like you're just naming off like basically the list of people.
The checklist of people
like,
you want to get.
Oh yeah. Like my little Excel spreadsheet where I'm like, okay, future cover designers, future projects. Here we go. Because they're all doing like incredibly phenomenal work, and you can immediately tell like whose work is whose.
Yeah, it's just, I like that you can tell like, oh, that's Justin's, that's Christina's, because they just have their own unique. They all look great in their own individual artistic styles, which is cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Was it hard convincing Sonora Taylor to do the forward for you?
Did you have to bribe her to do
that? I'm joking, by the way, but
I know. No, she's so sweet. She offered. Sonora and I are super good friends. We actually, so funny enough, like one of your favorite stories, My Love in Pieces, that is the story that brought me and Sonora together, because we were in an anthology together, and it was her kind of like, damn it, really? Because her story is just brilliant in that it was on like the Stoker like shortlist that year. Like it was just a recommended reading list. I was just like, girl, really? Like your first short story you get published is amazing. But we became really good friends through that. There was like a Facebook group for all of the authors that were part of that project. And it was an anthology of Edgar Allan Poe tales reimagined in contemporary times. So we both had stories in that anthology. We both did like some interviews of each other at that time, and we just completely hit it off. And it has just been like a friendship for the ages. We're just really close, and she's just such good people. And
it's pretty obvious in her actual forward talking about how you guys met and everything. So I was just kind of joking about.
Oh, I know.
Having to, you know,
she's so sweet though. She's so sweet. I didn't even ask her. She was like, "Do you want me to do this?" And I was like, "Really?"
I think it's cool. You can tell you all are such good friends, and in the forward she mentions that you all have never even met in person yet, which is it's cool that you all are that good of friends and have never met face to face.
Yeah. One of these days, it's going to happen. It's going to be so exciting.
And she's such a great writer too. It's just like a natural flow. So.
She's incredible. Like her mind, her creativity. She's incredibly intelligent and just like so funny and just good people. Like she's lovely.
So if the two of you want to do a story together in the future.
We've talked about it before. You know what? This is like.
Am I letting little secrets out?
Like,
I don't.
This is like my little shame reminder.
Plans
like
and plans and plans.
Yeah. Someday, it's probably going to happen. It might happen.
So speaking of future works, since this is a collection of poems and short stories, are we going to see a novella or a novel from you next, or are you going to stick with some short stories or collaborations with Sonora?
We will see what happens with my creativity, honestly, because that leads a lot of it. I do have some ideas for some novellas like that have been brewing up here, and I'm like, okay, like you did the collection, like you did it. So I'm hoping that gives me like the confidence to move into writing some longer work, because I think I've kind of put myself in this mindset of like, oh, I'm a short story writer. Like I do everything in kind of short form. But I definitely have some ideas that are bigger than short stories. So I'm kind of like, you know what? Like maybe that's the next thing that I really need to get into. And I've got a couple of ideas that are brewing up here.
There's the novelette link too, so don't forget about that.
Yes.
If you don't get a novella, there's a novelette.
like the 60 to 80 page thing.
Yeah, 40, 45, 60. Yeah, so.
Yeah, 100%. I actually do have a novelette that was published in an anthology that's out of print now that I'm considering going back and kind of like revising and editing. And it's like a vampire action romance.
Oh, that's up Brad's alley. He loves vampires.
I love vampires. Not so much the romance, but I like Tiffany's writing, so that'll boost it back up again.
There you go.
I guess romance kind of goes hand in hand with vampires for the book.
It kind of does.
You
yeah.
You can't really rip the two away from each other.
At least a little bit, but it's a very fun romp, and it's very, very action forward. So yeah, I might dabble in that a little bit too, because I really like that story. So just need to go back and kind of edit, revise, and get it back out into the world. So that might be something, but some more weird horror ideas happening up here too, for sure.
I love the weird horror. I do want to ask, and this is probably gonna come out sounding like mean or hateful, but that's not how I'm meaning it.
Gosh, Brad, being on negative 30 minutes.
No. Right.
Like now that you have your own collection, your own book out, do you feel more like an established author now than just having short stories in like other people's books? Do you feel like, oh, I've arrived now? That sounds horrible to say it like that.
No.
I know exactly what you mean. It's like you can take a deep breath now because it's there.
Yeah, like this is all completely Tiffany Michelle Brown. It's not.
Yes.
I have a book, I have a collection, or I have a story, and all these other people. This is just solely 100% you. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say without sounding like an asshole?
Yeah, no, and I'm not taking it that way in any way, shape, or form. Honestly, but it does. Like it feels a little bit different, and it's cool because I'm just kind of like, I did the damn thing, right? Like this is all my stuff. Or whenever I'm talking to someone and they're like, "Oh, where can I read your work?" and I can be like, "Well, I have a book."
Yeah.
As opposed to like, well, I have a story over here, and I have a story over here, and I have a story over here. I mean, I feel very firmly that I have been a writer for the past 10
and that's
years.
not what I was trying to insinuate.
No. Not at all. Like I feel very much that I have been, but this feels like a new milestone of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it feels like
it's a big
kind of like the next little, a next little like accomplishment, another step up. It feels really good. And it feels like the natural kind of like next step in progression. So like it's a really cool feeling for sure. And it makes me feel a little more established. I'm like, I can say that I have a book in the world. Like, hey, it's cool.
And not many people can say they have a book in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that was a maniacal laugh.
No, just because he gets on me.
That was a maniacal laugh, dude.
He gets on me all the time for like bringing up the negative reviews.
That was
whatever.
Positive.
But he had to do a little prerequisite of that.
Preamble that this is not a negative question.
He'll like tell you ahead of time, hey, just so you know, this isn't negative. But
so for you yourself, and I think you talked about it on the Instagram live you did. Do you have a favorite piece from here? What's your favorite piece in here? Is that like telling which child is your favorite? Is that too hard to do?
I think so. Like it's a difficult one. Like, I mean, I will say, I love The Price of Motherhood. It's the one that opens the collection. I knew that it was always going to open the collection.
That one had like a little sci-fi bit to it, which was cool too.
It got really creepy too. It got really
very creepy.
We could dissect every story right now. I mean,
there's some body horror. Like I feel like it really does like a lot. So like I love that story, and I knew from the very beginning, like that was one of those stories that never changed in where it was in like the table of contents. Like I knew, I was like, that
was your kicker open.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I like the ending to that one too. I won't say what it is, but the ending's super, just really creepy. Like if you were to, I don't want to say, that'll give it away. It was a good ending.
I love the ending of that too, and it was a surprise while I was writing it. It was going to end up somewhere else.
I was going to ask you that. It felt like it could have went a couple different directions, but how did you settle on the actual ending? What made you decide to go with that ending, though?
It was in the moment. It was literally as I was writing it, and it was just kind of like, okay, well, I've been with this character for a little while. Like, what would she actually do? Like, what is her frame of mind, and like, what are her motivations, and what is she feeling right this second? And that's what came out. And then like, it's funny because I do have like, when it's real good with like the creativity and like the writing, I do have these weird out of body sort of experiences where I'm just like, it just goes. And then sometimes I read back and I'm like, what the hell was that? But cool. But that was one of those situations where I finished it and I reread it and went, that was not what I was planning, but that's a cool.
So the story kind of wrote itself a little bit, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's cool. You said the ending was unexpected, but you had previously set up what that ending could be along the way already, which is cool.
Yeah, 100%. Like I mean, and I will say that the ending is not too far away. Like it's not outlandishly like.
No, it totally fits within what
a complete 180-degree turn than what I had planned originally either. But it's just different enough where I'm like, oh yeah, that was not what I planned.
See, that always blows my mind when writers say, like the book tells them the story, and that just, I can't wrap my head around that writers can, I don't know where I'm going.
Weird.
The characters are telling me the story. That just blows my mind when people are able to do it like that.
It is super weird, and it doesn't happen for every single story. And I remember early on when we were first dating, like telling my husband this, and he was like, what? Like, are you okay? But I know that I'm not the only one, and it's just like, it's this really interesting phenomenon where I think like your brain just kind of goes and does its thing. But it's really cool when it does happen. So yeah, that was one of those stories where it did, and I was just like, I always feel like I'm on to something whenever I get to that place creatively. So that was really cool.
It's a Brian Boyer, friend of the show. I think all his stuff is like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just start writing and it just goes where it goes. Like, that just, to me, that's mind-boggling to not like have an endpoint already in mind.
He allows the dialogue to tell the story, and then that dialogue tells him where he's going to go with the story. So yeah, that's always pretty cool.
That's so cool. Long live the Pantsers, man. That's right. It's what we do, man. I mean, that might be why I haven't written some longer stuff, because I do feel like you need at least some bit of organization. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe some people can just write on vibes for really long periods of time. But I feel like if I'm going to tackle a longer thing, then I probably need a little bit of at least.
Well, there are some people who have like so many like post-its and notes, and it's so planned out. And like if they take the wrong direction, then they've painted themselves into a corner and they have to go back and scrap like 50 pages. Like I'd be so afraid and messed up and just like upset that I would have to scrap so many pages to redo it all, you know. And some people like write the ending before they write the beginning, and it's just like
work backwards. Yeah.
I mean, I think that like that level of detail would probably be overwhelming. Like I think even with most of my short stories, I generally have an idea of where it's going, but I give myself enough flexibility where I'm like, if it lands somewhere else and it works, then that's totally cool. So like, I think I need at least a little bit of like those parameters, and then I just kind of like let the story go. And I think those are when it's really successful for me, at least. So yeah, I'm never going to be the Post-it girl. I don't think it would drive me crazy. I would do nothing but make Post-its. Like
it's almost like a crime scene, and like
I feel like that's almost
this, and it's just
That's all I would
do. More work than actually writing the book is like the prep for it. Because some people have it like,
right.
In chapter 23, I'm going to talk about this, this, and this. Like, how do you know that already? That's crazy.
Yeah.
To be that far, to be that detailed and planned ahead.
I mean, it's a lot. Like, bless the people who can do that. I don't know. Like, I just don't think that my brain works in that way, and I think that I'd get too obsessed. But I know that it works for people too. Yeah. So, like, cool. If you are a plotter,
I think sometimes though it could actually backfire for someone because then it becomes too structured. It's like too strict and too structured, and it's just like loosen up a little bit. It doesn't have to be almost perfect,
Like your writer's block yourself. Like, this is what I want to do, but I don't even know how to get there now, so I'm stuck.
Yeah. I like to leave room for like natural surprises for sure, because those are like that's the delightful part of writing for me. Honestly, is whenever stuff like that comes up and you're like, ooh. Well, that's interesting. Like, let's go over there. Like, that's the fun stuff for me. Yeah.
So, should we give we have a couple copies to give away. Should we try to give one away now?
Or...
Yes.
We'll give away one now, and we'll keep people interested. We'll give away one in a little bit too.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do two.
I didn't realize we chatted for like 40 minutes just about a bunch of stuff. I was like, oh shoot, we need to give away a book.
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
So
how are we doing this?
So it's going to be U.S. only because shipping is unfortunately just crazy expensive outside the U.S.
I'm sorry, I wish I could.
But so a hint, let's see, I'll put it up here. So you can go to Tiffany's website and you'll be able to find the answer to this question. And the first person to put it in the comments will win a copy. Signed copy, you'll sign it for them.
Yes,
signed copy
for sure.
How lovely to be a woman.
Your little logo, right?
Little logo, yeah.
Yeah.
So we have about 10 or 12 people in the chat. So the first person in the chat that answers this question, and we're going to watch it. So
what is the name of Tiffany's dog? You can find the answer on Tiffany's website.
Ooh.
What kind of dog?
I already know this.
What kind of dog do you have?
A little famous. He is, he's a mutt, so we're not entirely sure what he is. Something. Truly, he was a pound puppy. We got him when he was like 2.
Those are his birthday.
Oh, they're so great. But we think that he is like has some Australian Shepherd in him because he's definitely like a herding.
Nice. Yeah,
he does a little bit of herding.
Are you going to ever do the DNA test?
We never have.
We thought about doing it, but
I'd be interested. Yeah, it would be interesting to see for sure. But we think that he has that, and then we think that he has like some retriever in him for sure. So those are the two things where we're kind of like, we can definitely see that. Like, I think that there's some of that in there for sure. But
it's funny sometimes when a pound has
Russell got it.
Good job, Russell.
Zen.
Like, when a pound is trying to get the dog adopted, and it'll say something that there's no way it's got that kind of breed into it. Like our dog says something like lab mix. He has no lab in him at all. Let me tell you.
You're like, you lie.
Yeah. So how can they tell when they're a puppy?
Russell wins the first copy of How Lovely to Be a Woman.
Woo-hoo!
Congratulations, Zen the puppy.
That's awesome. I'm excited.
Russell, you're in the U.S., right?
You can you can go to Tiffany's website through her contact page and contact her, or you can go to our website and send us your info. And one way or the other, we'll get your book sent out to you.
Yeah, either way, we'll make sure that you get your copy for sure.
Yeah, and we have another one to give away a little bit later in the probably after trivia. Should we do trivia first, or you want to do it like a reading first?
Let's do a reading just because I'm getting a little bit further in my drink.
Yeah.
And the tires are slurring your words.
Like, just to be
I don't remember that part in the story. That was not in the story. That was not in the book.
All your S's are starting. Right, are you a
I don't know. Was that too real? I don't know.
No. We can do nothing's rehearsed on this show.
That's right.
Clearly, right?
Everything is real. Yeah. All right. So what are we going to read from here? Obviously the book. I mean, which story?
Yeah.
She's got to take a breath.
I know, right? I need to like compose myself a little bit. I'm good. Okay. I'm going to read a story that personally I think is the scariest story in this collection, simply because I think that there is a lot of reality to it. It's a short piece and it's called Pursuit.
Oh yeah.
That was a good one too. We've said like all over my good.
I love that. I love that. No, like the initial reaction, I'm just like, yes. Okay, pursuit. Moments before you register the scrape of shoes on pavement, the air around you grows tight. See, it already happened. Tight and heavy. The atmosphere coils like a spring, and your heart dances in your chest, missing every other step like a bumbling debutante who isn't ready for the chase despite years of training. No need to look over your shoulder. You know what you'll find. Teeth looming in the darkness, smiling, ready to snap, to make a meal of your fear. You quicken your pace, though you know it won't do you any good. You've been spotted, tagged, decided upon. He's coming, whether you're ready or not. Footsteps echo down the street and reverberate through your spine, steady and relentless as a metronome. In the dark, the houses in this neighborhood are nothing but piles of stucco and wood and brick. You're traversing an abandoned wasteland, an inhospitable place with nowhere to hide, no one to ask for help. You should have let Johnny walk you to your car. He offered, and his smile is bright enough to light up the night, but it seemed like such a hassle to bother him when you only had maybe a quarter of a mile of suburban sidewalk to navigate. You told him you'd be fine. You were wrong. Because the thing in the night spotted the dip of your cleavage, caught a whiff of your honeysuckle shampoo, heard the click of your boots on the sidewalk. Or perhaps you were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. A cramp lances through your side because you aren't breathing properly and you're moving too fast and anxiety is rippling through your muscles. And where the fuck is your car? You swore you parked closer. Each hulk of metal you pass boasts a license plate that isn't yours. You hate these inert red herrings. They are distracting. They breed false hope. You know there's only one way to escape. You have to find your silver hatchback before his teeth close about your throat. Metal pinches your palm as you fumble with your keys, transform your fist into a pointy weapon. This is why keys fit so neatly between fingers, isn't it? I'll slice and dice you, asshole. Don't come any closer. You're dying to hit the unlock button on your key fob, but you're afraid it's too soon. You can't unveil your destination until you can taste the exhaust, smell the pine-scented air freshener your dad hung from your rear view mirror the last time he helped change your oil. Your pursuer's footsteps haven't sped up, and yet he's right behind you. A snarl rips through the bushes nearby, and you croak a weak, pathetic sound. There's a chuckle and then rabid panting, hot and excited, like that of an overenthusiastic lover. Musk tunnels through your nose, down your throat, turns sour in your stomach. He's reaching out to grab your hair. It's so easy to pull. But you're at your car, and the ugly scratch where that lady sideswiped you 2 weeks ago suddenly looks like salvation. Your car lights pulse as you unlock the door, and a tear slides down your cheek. You know this isn't the end. Nothing is guaranteed, but now you have a chance. You wrench open the door and throw your body into the driver's seat. Slam, click, and then stillness. You count to 5. Breathing shakily, you look in your rear view, then over your shoulder. The back seat is empty. The windshield frames a quiet, undisturbed street, lit up periodically by slices of butter-colored light. You melt into the seat and stare into sweet nothingness. Your fingers drift to your neck, still sticky from his breath. Tooth-shaped indentations decorate your skin. As you run your fingertips over the grooves, you imagine a petal-pink constellation pulsing right above your jugular. That was close, but you made it. You're safe. You're nearby. A woman screams. Teeth gnash in the night. You pray for morning.
A lot of teeth throughout
a lot.
There are a lot of teeth.
There are so many teeth in this collection.
I was joking with Tiffany because your story in Nightmare Sky was about eyeballs. Like no eyeballs.
Eyes.
No, there's some teeth stuff though.
Yeah, I remember. I was like, your eyes are fine in this collection, but definitely not your teeth. Like, if you ever think about teeth, then proceed with caution. But
So where did this story come from? What was the if there was inspiration behind it, or was it like one of those late night I got an idea kind of things? Or
yeah, it was like this weird, like I was putting together the collection. This was one of the last pieces that I wrote, and it was just like the concept where I was just like, oh, I don't have anything about like women being followed at night. And that's definitely something that, that scares me. Like that's terrifying for me. And obviously like it's a big horror trope too, right? Like you've got slashers and all of that kind of stuff. Like that can be like really fun, but also really terrifying. So I just had the idea of that, and it was almost like, oh, well, what if you make it like someone being followed by a wolf and playing with that kind of idea? And then that's just what came out. And I was like, whoa, okay. I wrote it in like one sitting one morning where I was just like, let's just see where this goes. And then I was like, okay, well, that goes in the collection. Cool. Like, sweet.
People in the chat are loving the story.
Thanks, Sam.
So there's a teaser, people in the chat. So hop over and buy the book.
There you go.
There you go.
And also, Adriana says that your earrings are on point.
I love the pun that you had there because yes, for sure. They double as weapons. They're massive and they're heavy actually. I got them a few years ago and I never wear them. And I was getting dressed and was like, yes.
Those are appropriate.
This is the right vibe.
With all the teeth and the spikes, those are appropriate earrings.
Yeah. Teeth, spikes, absolutely.
I do say
I'm both fashionable and prepared. I
was gonna say with the story like that one, the woman is more so the victim in that one, but that's not the case with a lot of the stories, which also thought was cool because that's also a trope with horror. The women's the victim a lot and either has to be saved or they're killed or whatever. I guess with exception of the final girl thing, but a lot of the women in this one are the monsters or the bad people and stuff, which also was really cool. I'm sure that was cool for you as well to write the women being the powerful, the monsters and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. It was super intentional because I didn't want this collection to turn into like, don't get me wrong, I love the final girl thing and I love all of those movies and those stories and they're fantastic. But I also wanted a lot of different kind of levels and perspectives specifically in this collection. So that, the women in here weren't one thing and that it didn't turn into a lot of stories just about victimhood. Like there are definitely stories where women are victims in this collection, but there are some stories too where women change or become monstrous or, adapt and evolve based on some of the situations that they're in. And some of these women are just bad for the sake of being bad because you can also do that, y'all.
It does kind of be fun to write sometimes, right? Like
it's super fun.
It's super fun to write like somebody just the villain or somebody being totally bad because you let some of your inner self out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Seeing Double was really fun for that. If you
that was cool
or know of that story, like I don't want to spoil anything obviously, but that story was really fun of just being like, okay, yeah, we're just.
And that one felt like
really bad.
You could read that one in like the news headlines, like, okay, that really happened. Like that felt like something that could really happen.
Oh yeah, totally. Yes.
And also, just a bad person murder memory was cool. That was totally giving me vibes from the Hostel movies is what that one felt like to me a lot.
Ooh, okay, yeah. Hostel for sure. There's some John Wick inspiration there too.
Okay, like I still need to see those movies. I haven't seen them yet.
Okay, yeah. For anyone who is a John Wick fan, there's a little bit of like a nod to the idea of like the Continental in that story for sure. So big John Wick fan here. Like love it.
They look awesome. I just haven't got around to watching them yet.
They are.
I tried watching what was it? Part 3, and I was lost from the get go, and I was like, I'm just not.
Well, did you not start at part 1?
No, I saw part 1 and part 2.
Okay,
part 3 was just like, what is this?
Part 3 gets real far into like the world building, which I actually really love. Like, I think I was just like, oh, you're doing some really interesting things here. Like, this is cool. And it like I will say like I think the third movie is where like a lot of stuff just goes totally off the rails in terms of like the kills and all of that kind of stuff. Where I'm just kind of like,
was like, what? Where am I going with this? I don't
like
even know where
when
we were
Fast
going.
and Furious is going to space in their cars now, just completely overboard, out of control.
Yes, completely. But you know what? It also knows that it's doing that, and it does it well. So I'm like, I'm totally in. And I mean, who doesn't love, like, if you're a reader, that John Wick kills a man with a book? I'm sorry, I know that that's a spoiler, but dude,
that's not a big spoiler. That's
no,
cool,
and it happens very, very early on, so I feel like that's okay. But like, just epic. Like, you're just kind of like, did that just happen? Like, I saw that in the theater, and I was just like, where are we? Like, what
now
just
you
happened?
Now you need to take that clip and superimpose your book cover over the book he's killing him with.
Okay, I have a TikTok
assignment
for later.
TikTok beat somebody with a hell of a woman.
Gosh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. You know what?
She's like, I gotta go, guys. I gotta go make a TikTok real quick.
I know, right? I feel like I have to follow through on that now. Like, that is such a brilliant idea. Like, I'm in.
Not to change the subject completely, but to go back to the victimhood, I like the last story, The Gift, because it did have like a victim, but also the other woman was also the villain in that one. So there's two women sort of pitted against each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I wanted to make sure that there was at least a story that has like some semblance of sisterhood too, and like women helping each other, because that's also really important.
Helping each other in a really horrible way.
Yes.
I guess it depends on your perspective. Maybe she was.
I mean, was it
horrible?
like,
she was like, yeah, I think I'm okay now.
Exactly. So, you know, that one felt like the right one to end the collection on too. I was just like, yeah, this is the right note.
It's a good Christmas story. Christmas is always a good way to end something.
I agree.
A happy Christmas story, the air quotes.
Is there one story in this that you were a little bit most proud of? I know it, again, it's probably like, picking your favorite pet or something, but still.
Right, like picking the kid. Hang on, let me look at them.
Well, yeah, like
or like one you really was so involved with that just took a toll on you, that you took a deep breath and you got done with it, and just.
Yes, there is one actually. And I mean, I touched on this a little bit whenever I did like the Instagram live earlier. And I think it's just because it's a story that I've been thinking of for a really long time. And it took a long time to figure out how to tell it, which is The Girl Who Lost Herself, of the girl who could change into.
Oh, that was cool.
A lot of things, because I've been wanting to write that story for a really long time. But I also knew that I had to be careful with how I did it. Because it involves some stuff that, especially as a white woman of privilege, if I veered into too much stuff, like it could get bad pretty quick.
Right.
And so I think that I had to like sit on that one for a long time and figure out how to tell it. And it finally came to me that like telling it really directly in like the idea of a fairy tale
was very
that it needed to work. And as soon as I put that voice on it and just went, okay, well, it's just going to be really direct. Like, you're not going to get fancy. Like, we're not going to get purple prose in here. We're not going to get like super, involved. And it was just like, no, you just have to like, this is the story. This is how you tell it. Like, it's very direct and very much like in that fairy tale space where it could be weird, and talk about like transformation and that sort of thing. And as soon as that clicked into place, it was like, okay, cool. Like, this is definitely the way to tell the story, but it took a long time to get there. So finishing the draft of that. And I will say, like, that's one of the ones that I was really self-conscious about putting in the collection too, because I was like, did I do this the right way? I think that I did. I've gotten some really good feedback on that story and people who really enjoyed it. So I'm like, I think I did it. I think I did what I needed to. But it was just one where I struggled with the process for a while. So like, I'm really proud of that story.
I like how I think the voice of it changes at some point, because you start off with the once upon a time, so you automatically go up a few octaves. Once upon a time, but then you get to some parts you're like, wait a second, this isn't Mother Goose. What happened here? You know what I mean? It just totally changes. So I like how the voices kind of change, and like as you read it more, like you start getting deeper. Like, should I be reading this?
Something's not right here.
Yeah, something's wrong here. So
I like the message or the moral of it is, without trying to give too much away, is don't change yourself to make someone else happy, because in the end you lose yourself, which I thought was a really cool moral of the story for that one. That's how I interpreted it anyway. I don't know if that was your intention, but
100%. Like as a recovering people pleaser, that one strikes kind of close to the bone for sure. You know, and I think it's really easy, especially in romantic relationships. And often when women are a lot younger, and not just women, but just people in general, like whenever you're like really jazzed about someone and you're trying to impress them, it's super easy to just kind of like go with whatever they're into, to be like agreeable and to be like, I want them to like me. Right. So it's really easy to do that. And this just basically like took it to a whole other level where it's kind of like, oh no, but the stakes are really high. Right. You know, in this, if you let it go too far.
I even took it as not even like a relationship thing, but like just for like kids in general, like be yourself and don't try to please other people, even as a kid, because I've got young kids and Jay's got young kids. Be yourself and be happy with yourself, regardless of what other people think about you. And not the book is more about the relationship part, but you know, just a kid in general.
Don't change for anyone.
Stuff. Yeah, don't change. It's not worth it.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
What about the poems? Are there any of the poems that like you were so into that were just draining, or because did you ever think any of them were too abstract? Because I know poetry sometimes can be a little, you know, read into it, read between the lines. To me, poetry is like songs without the music set to it. So that's where I look at poetry. So I was kind of trying to find a rhythm. Any issues writing the poems, or you know, really diving into it, or having issues with those?
Not really. I think again, it was just me kind of being like, hey, because I don't think that I defined myself before this collection as like a poet. And I've really just recently been getting back into writing some poetry. I got burned a little bit in college because I did go to college for creative writing and I had to take a poetry seminar, but it's not what I wanted to do. And, you know, we were forced to emulate poets and like, I didn't really find like
takes the soul out of it.
Right. I really didn't find like my voice in it. Like I wasn't writing anything that I was super interested in. And it wasn't until recently that I've discovered some horror poetry. And I was kind of like, wait, I can tell stories like that. Like I can lean into those types of things. And like, so it's completely opened up this whole other world of writing for me. And so I've started to try my hand at that and it's been really fun. Yeah. So that, I mean, that was part of why I wanted to include it in this collection. Was I was just like, this is a grand experiment. Like, I have no idea how this is going to go, but like these fit thematically. I like them. Like, let's just do it. But it's been really fun. And I didn't have any massive issues with writing them necessarily. I do think that my style is kind of accessible because I don't like, I mean, there's definitely metaphor and that sort of thing, but I do think that a lot of my style with poetry is still very direct. So yeah, I didn't have a hard time necessarily writing it. I think again, it was just kind of like reception. It was like, what's going to happen with these poems? We'll see. I don't know. But again, the reception's been really cool. Like people have been super into the poetry and I'm like, writers, include poetry in your collections.
That's what I'm talking about. Because like I've written some before and then I've given them to some friends and I'm like, do you think this is too metaphoric? It's too abstract? And they're like, so what if it is? Let them read into it, what they read into it. You know what it's about, but that's what the poetry is. It's like a song, like if you talk to like a singer, all these lyrics were about this and this and this, but you may interpret it something totally different. That's what's so cool about music and songs and poetry go together for me. So
totally. Art in general is like so subjective and like everyone brings their own stuff to it. Like, I mean, I can tell you a little bit about some of the inspirations and things, but as soon as this book gets to you, it's yours. Like these are your stories at that point, right? And I want people to get what they can out of all of them. Again, I'll tell you what the inspiration was or what I was trying to do, but if you find some other meaning or something else in them and it resonates with you, like that's fantastic, like awesome. And I would never tell anyone that like their interpretation is incorrect or anything like that. Like, this is all yours. So yeah, but that's the fun. Like that's why I love media in general. Like, because I think movies do that. I think stories do that. I think poetry is that way too. Like, you can talk to 5 different people and they'll get a different interpretation or a different idea out of it. And I think that's so
and that's
cool.
what's so cool about art.
Art in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Sarah Tandlinger, because her poetry collection, The Devil's Dreamland, is what like opened my eyes to horror poetry. All about H.H. Holmes. Like, wow, I didn't know this. I didn't know poetry could be this way, and that really opened my eyes to other horror poetry. So yeah, her collection's awesome. If anybody hasn't read that one yet, definitely check it out.
In Cradleland of the Parasites. That,
and I like Christina Sung, Cynthia Pelayo's poetry is great. Yeah, there's a lot that I've discovered because of Sarah. So appreciate Sarah opening my eyes to all that world. But your poem, I really like. I'm assuming it's a poem because it's laid out like one. It's really long. Heartless, I really liked.
Yeah.
Because that sort of goes to kind of the same thing with the other story, kind of changing yourself or giving yourself away, giving too much of yourself away. This one, giving your love away and not getting that love back in return, and how it kind of wears on you after a while. That was a really cool. I really like the concept of this one a lot, and that's a long one too. That's like 5 or 6 pages of a poem.
It's really long. Yeah, I started I was formatting it, and I was like, "This is a really long poem."
It's really
long
good.
poem / flash fiction. That's what it.
I think that's my favorite poem out of the ones in here. I like that one a lot. I think because of what it's messaged behind it. I think I really enjoyed not to keep giving yourself away when you're not getting that reciprocated back to you, because it does wear on you. If you have relationships and people don't love you back, that can take a toll on you.
It totally does.
Let's do some trivia.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Before she drinks too much and like say,
then it might get really good.
Trivia is great on champagne. Like, let's go with that. That's fine.
Here we go, Jay. Laura's got a question. Speaking of horror poetry, Brad, how does it feel being with 2 published poets? Jay, you got something to share with people? Jay's a published poet, guys.
I have
pat yourself on the back really quick.
I have a little piece in the Siren's Call publication.
Yay! I haven't read that one yet, but I'm totally going to. That's exciting. Okay, we're going to cheers you right now. Can you cheers you, please?
Cheers,
because that's really exciting.
I have 2 things I'm working on. Not to make this about me, but my buddy L. Stevenson, he's not in chat. He's in the UK, so I call him Lewis. We have a short story collection that we're working on, and I may have a short story collection that by the end of the year for myself. But in the meantime, yes, there's a poem that I have in the Siren's Call.
That's so exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's super cool.
So how's it feel, Brad?
It feels,
answer Laurel's question there.
It feels real lonely over here, guys.
And by the way, Laurel, the check's in the mail. I appreciate that.
How much did you pay her to make that comment, Jay? Jay was like, message her furiously before the show. Please mention I've got a poem. No, I did read Jay's poem. It was cool. It was. I don't want to say what it's about. People can interpret it their own way, but I thought it was cool.
Well, they had a little theme this time, and it was like,
what's the theme? Okay,
us against nature, nature against us. Like, nature fighting back.
Ooh, I like that side of horror, so that'll be fun. I'm totally gonna read that tonight.
Page 134, by the way.
But
not
134. 134.
Not just memorized or anything, but page 134.
When you're getting ready to go to bed and you want to go to sleep, read Jay's poem. It'll knock you right out. I'm just playing.
Nice. This show's ended. All right, let's do some trivia. Come on.
Let's do some. We'll do some movie trivia. Does that sound fun, guys? All right. So Tiffany was telling us before the show that she might not know some of these, but it's okay. I think they're pretty layman's horror movie questions. So I think she'll do a good job.
We will see.
Now they're pretty good. So
am I going against her, or we just see if she can do it?
If she doesn't get it right, you can guess, and we'll see. Number 1, which pressure. Wipe the sweat off. Which horror movie was shot entirely on a handheld video camera, like a documentary?
On a handheld,
I mean, that's
right?
On handheld.
I mean, the very obvious answer here is Blair Witch. Yeah,
that's correct. Blair Witch Project.
Okay, yay.
See, they're not as crazy as you think.
You know what? One down. I have accomplished it. Like, I'm considering that a win, even if I don't get any of the other ones there. Like,
I'm here all week. Thanks so much. Yes.
Number
I can
2.
keep my horror card.
But
there you
the
go.
George Costanza, leave it on a high note. That's what.
Oh, guys, my power went out. Gotta go.
Right.
Number 2. What is the highest grossing horror movie of all time? And I'll give you a hint. It's more recent. It's within like the last 5 or 6 years. The highest grossing horror movie of all time.
I mean, I know that it's not the answer, but I will say that I saw that Evil Dead Rise hit 100 million worldwide today, which is very cool.
I really need to see that one. This one, I'll give you a hint. This one has a sequel, and it's an adaptation.
Ooh, okay.
It's an adaptation from a book.
Adaptation?
The highest grossing one is not the sequel, but it has a sequel. So this is part 1. Came out in 2017, if that makes any difference.
Really? Because I thought it was like Jaws or something like that.
I was going to say something like The Exorcist, but maybe not.
Yeah. Russell says Scream 6.
Scream 6.
That was one that's like way too long. That's what I was talking about topically.
I'll give you. Cynthia says she knows it. Guess, Cynthia. It's a one-word title.
Oh, is it It?
It. Chapter 1.
Okay. I was racking my brain. I was like, what has a part 1, part 2 situation? Like, okay, that makes sense.
So was it part 1 that's the highest or part 2?
Part 1's the highest, yeah.
Yeah. Part
I will
1
say,
wasn't
I
bad.
enjoyed
Part 2 was
part 1
overkill.
better.
Part 1 was a lot better.
Yeah.
Part 2 just did not work for me.
Even with
fine.
Even with the book, the kids are more entertaining than when they are as adults, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what even with the old miniseries, part 2, because it's mostly the adults, just wasn't as fun.
Totally.
Number 3, what horror movie? This is an easy one. What horror movie is famous for the line, "Do you like scary movies?" Speaking of what Russell's talking about.
Scream.
Do you all like the Scream movies? I like the first one's great. I love the first one.
I love them. I scarred my wife. We watched one.
She's not a big horror movie fan, right?
No, she's not. And this was years back, like before kids, I think. And just one weekend, one Saturday, we were trying to figure out. This was during DVD areas before streaming, and I had them all copied on blank DVDs. For some reason, I was like, "Let's watch the Saw movies." She sat there. I watched them one after another, and she was like, "I cannot believe I just did this." Like we did like 5 in a row because 6 was getting ready to come out. So,
oh no! You were like, let me prepare you.
So she's scarred now, and she still holds it over my head that I made her do that. I didn't make.
I don't blame her for that series.
She got up and left. I mean,
Saw 1 and 2 is good, and after that, they're just ridiculous. I love the endings to both of those.
Yeah. I like really if you take out like. I'm a big fan of Saw because if you take out like the gore and the nastiness, they're really good psychological stories.
They've got a great twist. The first 2 do.
Totally. I really enjoy the psychology of them for sure. And I've actually been thinking about like
Cynthia, in a row. Exactly. I think part 6 was getting ready to come out and we were like, how to do I wanted to remember what happened.
In a row is a lot. Like that's a lot. Like
it's a lot of torture
don't get me wrong.
In a row.
But they're only an hour and a half each. And we go back to that.
I mean, at least it's the only 90-minute situation, right?
Yes.
Like,
and the puppet's really cool too. I like the puppet a lot from those.
Yeah. Like, I mean, they definitely have really good creep factor and good like psychological turn, but yeah, I agree. Like sometimes the torture porn can get a little too, yeah. But I have been considering. I'm like, I haven't watched those in such a long time. I'm like, is it time for a rewatch? Would it be fun to actually like go back, or am I just going to be like, nah?
Here's the kicker. When we were dating, I dragged her parents to Saw 2. They had no clue what it was about. Like they were like, okay.
Oh no.
I don't know how I got to pick the movie. I don't know how it came up because I don't even know if we were engaged yet. And
I was about to say, and you still became part of the family.
And her parents took us out to eat, and then they wanted to go see a movie. I was like, hey, let's go see Saw 2. It's just, and I think I sold it to them as it's just like a little psychological kind of twist and turns. Oh my god.
Okay, what's the most horrific kill in the second one? Like, what was the moment where you were just like, oh, they should?
I can't. The second one's just a blur. I remember one of them gets pushed into like the pit of needles. I remember that.
I remember part 2, part 3 would take place at the same time, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Without spoiling anything.
Did we lose Tiffany?
We'll see if she comes back.
Oh,
part
no.
2. She ended it. She was like, I'm not doing any more trivia.
Yeah, she got mad about that, so she's done.
Then part 2, one of them looks in like the peephole. And there's a revolver on the other side, shoots him in the face.
Yeah,
it's like
part 2, part 3 were taking place at the exact same time. I remember that. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember while we're waiting for her to come back, my buddy, we saw part 1 in theaters, and my buddy was like, I guessed the ending the whole time. I was like, you are full of it. There's no way you guessed that the dead dude in the middle of the floor was the killer. No way.
I remember when it happened. Because I think we didn't see it in theaters. We saw it on DVD, and we were like, "Oh, that's just so cool!"
Like, and the theme song hits in. I love the theme to it's cool, and the ending. I think that might be my favorite ending to a horror movie of all time. Is the first one. The first one's great because no one's guessing that the dead dude is the killer. And he gets up and shocks him again.
Don't give a spoiler.
That movie's old. If you haven't seen it by now,
I know. I'm just kidding. And for those listening in the audio version, we have a little technical difficulty here. I know that we were into like a good conversation with Tiffany about horror films, and she may have lost connection. Oh, and then
there she is.
Yay!
We're good.
Sorry about that.
I can stop dancing now. I was doing a dance while you were entertaining.
I was about to take his shirt off and.
Wait, I missed the dancing.
And then
there was dancing, and I missed it. No.
The views dropped to 0, and Jay.
Yeah, sorry. We gotta get these people back. I got a shirt halfway raised, and like no. Okay.
All right.
What's the next
question? Up. This one's really simple. What horror author? what horror author has the most movie adaptations made from his best-selling books?
Oh, really? It's got to be King.
Stephen King.
It's got to be King.
Number 5.
Whether they are quality adaptations is
right.
That's a completely different. That's a completely different conversation.
That's another show.
Yeah. Hey, he's got some great ones, and he's got some that are just complete garbage.
You know what? And he'll tell you that too. So.
He will. I think it's this might not be right, but I feel like it is that he sells the movie rights, or he used to, for like just $1 back in the day. He would just because you had to have some sort of transaction. So he was like $1, you can do whatever you want to with it. And that might be why some of them are really crappy because no one actually really paid for anything.
Yeah, could be.
I feel like I've heard that before.
Fun question. Cynthia's saying, fun question. Who is second?
Who's second? For
we
movie
look that up.
I don't know. Who would be second?
Like, I guess I would wonder, like, are there any like big, like almost like the franchise sort of stuff that's based on books? You know what I mean? Like that might be.
I feel like maybe Clive Barker because the Hellraiser movies and stuff.
Ooh, you know what? That could be. I could see that.
Who did
for sure.
Who did the?
And he did Hellraiser and he did Candyland. Not Candyland. Crap, what's that movie called? Candyman. Goodness, not the board game. The killer with the hook. maybe Brad will put down the whiskey.
Now I am merging those two things in my head.
Also, like
Candyland.
Wasn't there like Books of Blood movie?
There's a Hulu TV show.
Yeah, there was a show, like a Hulu show, I want to say, for that. So yeah, maybe I
would bet it's Clive.
There we go. Cynthia said independent filmmakers got to buy Stephen King's adaptation rights for $1. I knew it was something like that. That's cool.
That is cool.
All right, number 5. Who is revealed to be the serial killer in the movie Friday the 13th? So the original one. Who's the killer in that one? This is kind of a trick question.
Here's where I pass the horror card.
She's like, oh no, my connection's gone again.
You're talking about part 1.
Part 1. Who's the killer? Who's the killer in part 1?
Is that where it's his mom?
Yeah, his mama.
It is?
Okay,
it was.
Pamela Voorhees.
Okay.
And Jason's not in it till like the very end where he jumps out of the water at the end.
Yes. Okay, that's right.
All right. I don't know what number we're on. We'll do a couple more. Which classic monster movie is said to be the most successful horror franchise in history? This is classic movies, like old school. Which classic movie monster is said to be the most successful horror movie franchise in history?
Is that Godzilla?
It is Godzilla.
Nice.
There's a lot of Godzilla movies. You have a Godzilla shirt on? Yeah, look at her. Are you a big Godzilla fan then?
I'm a huge fan of just like old school monster movies for sure. But I will say this specifically, like I can't show you the whole thing, I don't think necessarily, but like it's actually a dress. And this is Godzilla superimposed over the Mona Lisa. It's amazing.
I just need to see Godzilla's face with the hair. I need the hair.
Yes, exactly. Like with the hair and like the crossed hands, and it's hilarious.
It needs to be her. It needs to be her hands with Godzilla's
face.
So do you watch the old ones that are badly dubbed over?
Those old ones are so bad.
Like I grew up watching those.
They're so bad, they're good.
I mean, they were on like, when I was a kid, when we had like 3 channels, they would be on late night Saturday.
Yeah.
Those were great. That's what
They do have a certain charm, I will say.
Yeah.
So,
They do. There's just the little models, and you can tell when he's destroying the city, it's like just a guy in a suit. Like there's something charming about all that.
Yeah, absolutely. People were like, you know what, we're gonna do this. How can we do this? And they did it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it. And it's very charming.
But without those,
high art.
Without those, there wouldn't be any kind of remakes for today.
It's true.
Right.
Dropping knowledge. Look at that. Okay.
All right. This question, I don't know about this question. We'll see. Which 3 movie franchises feature a possessed doll? I feel like 2 of these answers are one and the same. So which 3 movie franchises feature a possessed doll?
I mean, obviously there's Annabelle.
Annabelle's one, yeah.
Is that okay? Because I get some of those mixed up where I'm kind of like, is that the name of the franchise? Like, is that it or is it part of it?
That's part of the Conjuring universe.
Yes, that's where I was kind of like, is that part of that? Chucky,
yes.
Those
See, this is where
thinking of. Yeah.
This is where I'll just say they have Annabelle, Child's Play, and Chucky, but Chucky and Child's Play are the same thing.
To me, they are. Yeah.
So are they saying that it's the original Child's Play movies and then like the later Chucky movies? Are they saying those are something different maybe? Because I feel like that's all one franchise. Child's Play and Chucky is the same thing.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, that feels like the same thing to me. But.
Okay. I read that question, was like, those are the same. They shouldn't have those separated.
Yeah, I think so too.
We'll do 2 more real quick.
Cool.
Where we go?
Just gotta think about it.
Oh, here we go. What is the name of the demon in The Exorcist? I think this is such a cool name. What's the demon's name in The Exorcist?
Oh, I know this.
It sounds like a Pokemon name.
I know, it totally does, and it's all like jumbled up in my head right now. Dang it. Okay, I'm not gonna remember.
Do you want to hit Jay? Do you know it? Do you know what it is, Jay? I'll give you all a hint. It starts.
It's like it starts with a P. It's like Pazuzu or Pazuzu or
Pazuzu. Like she calls him
yeah.
She calls him Captain Howdy is what Russell says. Captain Howdy, but Pazuzu is the demon's name.
Pazuzu. Nice.
That's such, I don't know. That just rolls off the tongue. Pazuzu.
Pazuzu.
Is it named that in the book too, or is it just?
I think it's Pazuzu in the book. If anybody has ever wanting to read The Exorcist, do it on audiobook. Where I don't know if they're all like this, but the 40th anniversary edition is narrated by William Peter Blatty, and he crushes it.
He reads his own book.
He reads his own book, and his like demonic Reagan is so much creepier than it is in the movie. He's got like this gravelly like cigarette smoke voice, and him as demonic Reagan is just chilling. It's so good.
Nice. Okay.
So if anyone wants to read The Exorcist, do the audiobook that's specifically narrated by William Peter Blatty, because it's great. I'll go on a limb. I think I like the book more than the movie. Even though the movie's iconic, the book was better, guys, in my opinion.
More shots fired.
One day.
More
One
shots
day
fired.
More shots fired.
We'll do one last question. Who was Danny's imaginary friend in the classic horror movie The Shining? What's his little friend's name?
Oh crap. I'm totally like I'm staring off into the distance like it's gonna come. But it's not going to.
Jay's googling it.
Right now.
You can tell Jay's googling it because the brightness on his screen is changing. So he's going to the website. Yeah, like,
did it change?
Yes, you got brighter just then.
Let's see.
I just saw
now you're
it.
darker.
Either Jay is looking up the answer or being abducted.
I'm actually looking at the Atlanta Braves score right now.
Who's Danny? Jay, do you know Danny's imaginary friend's name from The Shining? He does his little finger all the time.
Was it Timmy or Tommy?
Close.
Tony.
Tony. Okay.
It was weird, whatever it was. Yeah.
I think I like the Shining movie more than the book too. Maybe that's controversial.
Ooh, fighting words. I like the book more than
but
the movie.
But is it true? Is it true that King does not like the Shining movie?
No, he hates it, and he talks about it in his books all the time. Like he makes his characters hate the Shining movie.
He likes he likes the TV version better. I think.
Because he was involved in that one.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, they're both really good, but the score plays a lot into it. I love the music in the movie, and Jack Nicholson's performance is really good. They're quite, especially the endings, they're quite different, but I like the movie.
They are very different.
I think it's funny. A lot of the iconic stuff from the movie is not in the book at all. Yeah. Like here's Johnny and the two twin girls. Like none of that stuff's in the book.
Well,
yeah,
he didn't like it because Kubrick. He thinks Kubrick changed the whole feeling to it and all that stuff. So.
Well, yeah, and the main character, like
Shelley Duvall was great. Yeah, she was great.
Oh, Shelley Duvall is fantastic in that film, I will say. But I still stand strong. Like I like the book more.
I do. The book is really good, and the endings are completely different. One, the hotel like blows up. The book blows up, doesn't it? I think.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. I loved it.
Let's give away another book. Let's do another book giveaway.
Yes, let's do it.
We got another trivia for this one.
Yeah, so you can win U.S. only. How Lovely to Be a Woman. And if you go to check out Tiffany's website, you can find the answer. So name one publication and or publisher that Tiffany has previously published a story with. You got lots of choices.
Yeah.
There are a few.
There are a few.
Just a hint. She was actually on here
on an episode.
Talking about one. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I was.
What's Laurel saying? I've told my husband I'd kill him so much faster than Wendy does. Laurel, I don't doubt that one bit.
No, not in the least. Like
Especially,
Laurel's like.
Especially, I've seen you do the axe throwing videos with I can't remember her name either. I'm horrible with names.
Rowan.
Yes, Rowan Hill.
Yeah, Rowan Hill, who's rad.
Did we ask Laurel what she's drinking tonight? That's a must.
I don't know, but we should.
Obviously, it's bourbon. Curse Morsels, is that one? It's not on her website.
That's kind of a trick question. Well, that's correct though.
That one correct?
Yeah. Proliscariot. So Proliscariot came out before Curse Morsels became like an official press. So it's under Radflesh Press initially. But yeah, anything going forward is Curse Morsels, funny enough. So there you go. But yeah.
There you go. Cynthia is going to get
a copy. There is a delay between us and the
show. Yeah, there's definitely a delay.
So Cynthia, you can either contact us through our website or through Tiffany's website.
Yes.
Give us your contact info so we can get that book sent out to you.
Yay, Cynthia!
Before we get out of here, I want to touch on your podcast a little bit. You have your own podcast.
Yeah, podcast.
I do.
Laurel's drinking a margarita. Laurel, what is wrong with you? Tomorrow's every day, and you're drinking a margarita?
It's because it's Cinco de Mayo.
It's Cinco de Mayo. I'll forgive her. That makes sense. Okay. I'll forgive you, Laurel.
I think it's because of that.
I apologize for my outburst.
This bourbon's talking and making them angry.
Laurel, if it was any other day, then
we would be so disappointed.
Then we would be judging you pretty hard. I think.
Right. We all have bourbon, and she's like,
"We'll let you slide today." I understand. I'm horrible with dates too, so you get a pass for today. So yeah, tell us about your podcast. What's it called?
Yeah. So the podcast is called Horror in the Margins. And I started it with one of my very best friends from college. Her name is Nikki. And it came about, it was kind of a byproduct of a couple of different things. One, we went to college together and we took like some film analysis classes together as part of our English majors. And it was so much fun because we would just go in and like watch these great movies on a Tuesday and then talk about them on a Thursday. And we loved it. And we've continued to do that, especially during the pandemic. We'd get together on like a weekly basis and watch a movie. And like you, Jay, I have a spouse who is not into horror. So Nikki has always been kind of like my horror movie fan. And so we watch them together, whether it's in person or, during the pandemic, it was always over something like Zoom like this. And we'd pop in and be like, oh, shit's about to go down. And then go like, like we would do it like in the moment and be like, oh, this is not going to be good. But it was a lot of fun. And then we would hang out on the phone afterward for like half an hour talking about these movies. And a couple of times we made the joke of like, oh, we should really be recording this. Like we should have a podcast, right? Like, so that just got thrown out there. And then the other kind of impetus of it was, and I mean, I know that Twitter is still a very nebulous, weird place. But in the height of all of that, like, will they, won't they? Is Twitter just going to go away? I was starting to think about ways where I might be able to like help with the community or create something that would be a little more lasting. And so I was kind of like, maybe it's a podcast thing. So I started talking with Nikki, and it's so funny because at the same time she was like, I was going to propose that we do that in the new year too. So we were just completely on the same page, and decided that we wanted to create something that spotlights indie horror, specifically. And we're really kind of trying to focus on creators from marginalized communities as well. So people with very different backgrounds, and just trying to like give them that extra space where they can talk about their work and their experiences. So we do 2 episodes a month. One is a film discussion, and the second one is like a creator interview where we invite folks on, and it's super fun. We're doing it all just for the love of it. We think we're entertaining. I don't know if we actually are, but we have a good time. So
that's all that matters. As long as you all are having a good time, people are going to enjoy it as well, because that feed off that energy.
Yeah.
Is it audio only? No video, just audio?
Yeah. It's audio only. Anywhere that you get your podcasts. But you can also find us at horrorinthemargins.com and on all of the all the socials and stuff too. So,
cool.
Yeah, it's been super fun. It's been a lot. It's been a blast.
Who are some of the name drop? Who are some of the people you've had on? I know earlier you mentioned you had Laurel on, and you had like a bourbon.
What has Laurel not been on, by the way?
I know, right?
It's like an honorary member of our show.
She's so world famous.
We had Laurel on. We just interviewed Ai Jiang, who recently dropped Ling Wen. And who has I Am I coming out.
She's like blown up.
She's
recently.
Incredible. I mean, she was prolific before then. Like I remember just watching stuff on Twitter and just being like, you are publishing something like every freaking week. And all of her stuff is so phenomenal too. And she's extremely humble about it and just really sweet. But we had a really great conversation about immigration and ghosts and all it's just a really rich, fantastic combination or conversation. We had Eric Raglan on, the author of Extinction Hymns and who also runs Cursed Morsels. And hey, you know what? Why not? I'll announce it now. Our next guest is
there you go.
Yeah, is Zachary Rosenberg.
Okay.
We're reading his weird Western, Hunger's as Old as This Land. Which is really fun, and I'm actually going to finish it when we're done here.
That's with Brigid's Gate Press,
yes,
right?
That's what. Yes, that's with Brigid's Gates. So, and that drops on the 17th, and his episode drops on the 17th too.
Nice.
So it's I was like, ooh, the tie-in. Once I saw that it dropped, it was like lining up that way on the calendar. I was very pleased.
The cover for that reminds me so much of the Tremors movies. I love
Tremors. Yes, I love it too.
Such a cool cover.
It's really, really cool. And the story is great so far too. Like I am really enjoying it. So I know that that's up for like pre-orders and stuff. Y'all go snatch it up because it's great. It's really fun.
Competition.
No.
I'm joking.
Jay, I'm going to read your poem first, and then I'm going to get back to Zach's book.
No, I'm talking about your podcast is competition for us.
Oh, well, I mean,
totally joking, kidding. Stop, Brad. Stop saying that stuff.
I didn't say anything. That's all you.
It's a very different thing. We have our own niche. It's all good. And you know what? There's room for all the podcasts. Yeah. It's fun. We're having a good time.
And you're talking about Ai Zhang. She was on episode with you for the Nightmare Sky cover reveal back in the day. And she, speaking of that, yours has stories and poems. She had a poem in that anthology as opposed to a story. Her poem was really cool too.
It's like 6 degrees of separation. How we all just connect.
How we all connect together. It's a small community. It's a small little community.
Totally. I mean, I was aware of her, and I think I was following her at that time and everything, but that did give us like an opportunity to actually connect on a different level, right? Because we were both in this conversation and like, so that was really cool. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I feel like I could go and ask if she wanted to be on the show. And yeah, it was great. So yeah.
So have you had pretty good luck with reaching out to people?
Yeah, so far it's been really good. Like, and we try as much as we can too, of just like, we're going to promote the hell out of your work, and we have, some good, fun conversations. And like, we really just want to try to elevate these voices and give people an opportunity to talk about their work. So it's fun. We enjoy it.
There's a question in the chat from M. Would Tiffany consider making a movie of her stories?
Oh, hell yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Absolutely. Filmmakers, my DMs are open. Or you know what? Maybe use my contact form. Maybe not my DMs.
I thought it was going to be another. I'll just go ahead and tell you right now. Another reveal. Yeah.
So I would say, out of all the ones in here, if you could only pick one to be adapted, what would you pick? What do you think would be the best film adaptation, whether it's a show or movie? The fairy tale one would be cool special effects.
I know, right? That's what I was thinking too. Like that could be super cool. I really like that. I really like the idea of The Price of Motherhood getting adapted because I think that could be super weird.
I was picturing reading The Price of Motherhood. I was picturing WandaVision as the mother, Elizabeth Olsen. I don't know why, but I was just picturing her as the mother for some reason.
She would be excellent.
Because I'm watching her right now in that new HBO series, and she seems a little out of it. So I was just kind of picturing her for that.
She would be excellent. That would be super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think The Gift could be interesting too. Also from a special effects.
Make it a Hallmark movie.
There you go.
And it turns out not to be a Hallmark movie whatsoever.
Pitching to Hallmark, like I have this idea. That would be so fun.
Cynthia's got a question to kind of go along with that. If you could pick a director to adapt to your work, what would it be? You have any directors you like to lean towards as far as their stuff?
I really love Karen Kurosawa. She's fantastic. I really like her. And then, I'm trying to think of, I'm totally spacing on her name right now, but she's a very weird French film director. She did Raw and Titan. Why am I totally spaced? I'm sorry. I'm totally going to look it up because I need to actually. But those are two of my favorite female directors that I think would be super rad. Julia Ducournau. Yeah, Julia Ducournau. They're both absolutely.
Well, we have a little surprise for you backstage right now. I'm kidding. That would be awesome, though.
My shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd be like, you've been making them wait for this long?
I know, really.
They just pop in for 30 seconds at the very end.
No kind of refreshments backstage or anything. So.
Oh, that would be amazing. Oh, I love those two. They're both really incredible.
It'd be cool to make this into like an anthology show where every episode is about a different story. That'd be cool.
Yes, please.
Like
Filmmakers.
the Guillermo del Toro, the Cabinet of Curiosities show, something like that. That'd be cool.
Oh my gosh, I would be so into it.
Or like even better, the Worst Laid Plans anthology that did Samantha Kolesnik edited. They did they did a movie with 4 or 5 stories.
Mm-hmm. Oh God, I mean that's a dream. Yet? Like I would love people to adapt. Yeah, I don't know if that's out.
I think it's been out in like the film festivals and stuff, but I don't know if it's available to actually watch yet.
So like a really like limited release sort of a thing right now.
I think so. And maybe if you backed like the Indiegogo, maybe you got to watch it by now. I'm not sure.
I can't wait to see that when it is like fully available.
I know, because I really enjoy that anthology too. So that'd be cool to see that come to the screen, especially since it's like indie. What I think it's with Grindhouse Press. See something like that from a smaller press be adapted. It's cool.
It's so great. I would love that. I mean, that would be a dream. Like seeing anything on a screen of mine would just be like, I mean, I love film too. So it's one of those things where I'm like, that would just be like the next pinnacle, like the next thing that would just be incredibly, incredibly cool. Like I want to see my work adapted to everything. Like give me film, give me graphic novels, give me all of that stuff. Like
some of these would make great graphic novels. All the teeth ones would make a great graphic novel.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need more like horror graphic novels. We need more of that. So I'm in.
With you being a big fan of movies, do you take inspiration from movies and stuff for any of your stories? Like specifically, like that one to me felt like Hostel, but for you it felt like John Wick. So do you take any inspiration from stuff like that?
I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that maybe I have. I mean, there are some movies that after I've watched them, like I'll find myself writing something where there's some sort of like through line or some sort of inspiration. I'm trying to think of whether there's anything specifically in this collection.
And also to kind of go along with that, do you take any inspiration from like mythology or myth? Because you've got the one poem that's got kind of Medusa in it.
Heavy as the Head is definitely like a Medusa poem, but not a Medusa poem. Like there's definitely some of that. I grew up reading a ton of like folklore and myth, and like I was like, feed that into my veins. Like I love it. I love all of that stuff, like fairy tales, anything like that I was into. So I think that that's definitely something that does feed into some of my work, especially whenever I start talking about like creatures.
I was going to ask like the snake creatures, are they based on anything or just something? Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's some of that where like I'll dip into kind of like myths or it's funny because sometimes I'll start writing those things then not know where they came from and then go, okay, like that might go back to that myth or that story that I really loved when I was a kid, or this is because I watched this movie recently. Yeah, for sure. Like I'm a big like reader, watcher of movies. Like I'm constantly just like, give me new media, give me new stuff, like
taking it all in.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's just like subconsciously showing up out of nowhere. So
yeah. It's the best.
Also, since it's brand new, pretty much, tell people about your website because you just brought that at least live to public like a couple days before your book dropped, right?
Yeah. It was one of those things where I'm like, I have a book, I should probably have a website. I had something that was like a blog from a long time ago, and I was like, this is just not going to work. So a huge shout out to my husband because he's a designer and he helped me with like so much of that stuff and getting it set up and like created a logo and a font for me. And I was like, who are you? Like, this is amazing. So I snagged tmbwrites.com. That is the best place to keep up with everything that I have going on. I'm going to be posting about events like this one, new publications, anything that's going on with me. But that just rolled out a few days ago. It'll have like the latest and greatest. It's exciting. That's another little like milestone where I'm like, I have a proper author website. Like, this is exciting.
Look how professional I am now. Yeah.
I know, right? It's not one of the fun things to do. It's one of those like administrative things where you're just like, God damn it, I need to create a website. But there you go.
There's this cool podcast on her website that y'all could
It's super cool. It's super cool. I will say one cool thing that we did figure out how to do with events too is creating like an add to calendar sort of thing, because I know that it can be really hard to like remember when everything is. So we're going to try to keep those updated as much as possible. So yeah.
So go check out Tiffany's website because it looks. Did your husband do the whole thing? Because it looks really good.
Yeah, he did most of it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
You get all her published works, all her books, all her stories.
Yeah, this is not all of them. This is just the most recent stuff. I need to like go back and continue to build it out. But because I've been publishing for 10 years. There's a lot.
I love that your logo looks like a wax stamp. Is that what it's supposed to be?
No, yes, it is.
Because when you tell, it's kind of uneven. It looks like wax is kind of blobbed over, and you stamped it in the middle. That looks cool.
I love it. It's so fun. I went in and my husband was like, "Oh, hey, I worked on something last night. You like this?" And I was like, "Ugh." Yes. I love it. It's great. And I was just like, "You're leaning into like this gothic stuff. You're not even a horror person." Like, I love it. I love it. I love it. So
start rub off on them is what you're doing. So
a little bit.
Just tad.
Just a little.
Yeah. So if you're a fan of Tiffany's work, check out her website. It's the one-stop shop for everything Tiffany Michelle Brown.
That's right.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We really appreciate it. It's been fun.
We do appreciate it.
It's been
fun.
Thank
you. Of course,
this
thank
is
you
the
so
book.
much.
I think it deserves another toast. I don't know if you guys have anything left, but I got a little bit drop there.
I got some mint leaves in the bottom. I can toast too.
There you go.
I love it. I'll toast the book because I don't know where my drink went, which means it was a great interview.
That's the whole goal, is to hopefully make it a great interview.
And breathe. Yes.
I know, right? No, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me on, and this has just been a blast.
Congrats to our winners in the chat.
Yes,
Cynthia and Russell.
Yeah, so they're lucky. Everybody else, you have to go buy it.
But it's totally worth the admission price.
Oh gosh, yes, yeah,
totally worth it.
Yeah. They could get it from your website, or do they need to go to Amazon, or what's the deal?
So I mean, it should be available basically anywhere where you can find your books. It's definitely on, the Zon,
right,
barnesandnoble.com, bookshop.org, like all of those places where you can search for books. My author copies are arriving tomorrow, so I guess, hey, here's another announcement. If you're interested in getting a signed author copy, I will have a few of those that I'm happy to ship out specifically for you, and they will be signed. So if you're interested in that, then you can just fill out something on my website in the contact form. But yeah, so I'll have some copies there if you'd like to buy them directly from me as well.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Don't support Zon. Support Tiffany directly.
Yeah, exactly.
You get to add a touch of the signed copy, her little logo drawn in there.
Right.
And personalized.
Yeah. That's the way to go.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. How lovely to be a woman. It's a great collection of thoughts and stories and poems and all that stuff mixed together.
Available now for your purchasing and reading pleasure.
This is Tiffany Michelle Brown, everyone. Congratulations on the release.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for spending the release and help letting us, boost it for you a little bit. So
of course.
Well, I don't know about us boosting much.
Jay. Well, I mean, come and talking to us about the release.
There's a boost. There's a boost happening here.
Yeah. We do very much appreciate you reaching out to us to want to be on the show, especially since you've been on before. Like, I want to go back there.
Yeah, whenever we get somebody a repeater, we're like,
a return. Like, oh wow, we didn't scare them away. We did a good job.
we got to work harder next time of scaring them away.
It takes more than that to get rid of me. Repeat offender here. We're
appreciative of all our guests, but especially the repeat ones, that just keep putting up with us for who knows why.
I think that's going to do it. I don't think I stopped laughing at all tonight. So awesome.
It was a good show.
That's going to do it, everyone. Everyone in the chat, thanks so much. Tiffany, thanks so much for hanging out. And
absolutely.
That's the way the cookie crumbles. All right.
Bye, everyone.
Jay, I don't think you were negative the whole show, Jay. Congratulations.
You took over that part. You took over that part this time. So, all right, everybody. That's a wrap. Everyone.
See you guys.
Glad you got to see me. Bye.
Love you, Jay.
I know you do.